Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the King of the Caribbean himself. Karl Bryan is here to answer all of your questions today. Big shooter, what is happening?
It's lots happening, bud, but good to be here. Good to be here with you. By the way, my microphone died today, so I may or may not be sounding as crisp as normal, so apologies if not, but here we are. But buddy, I'm doing good. Good to be on the horn. Rock.
As I told you before, even the pre-show, you know what? We're probably close to 200 episodes in. By 500, I think we'll have this just fine-tuned. I'm confident we'll get there. I know I will be. Can't speak for you, however.
Road Dog.
There we go.
To me today as we're sitting there, and I'm like, this stupid darn thing. And hang on a minute. And could you hear this? Could you hear that? And hang on, let me check the sound. He's like, we'll dial it. We'll get this, but we'll get this. But anywho,
one of my favorite of all times, Bud, is before every show, hearing you go test every time. It's so funny. Anywho, listen, we had some good questions actually in the pre-show, and if you're not part of the pre-show, you need to be checking out focus.com and signing up there. But anywho, that aside, we had one question, and I think this is a really good one because we all do our fair share of networking, Karl. And we had a gentleman went to a trade show event, had like 40, 50 conversations, collected some business cards. And now he's like, so now what do I do? Like, what's the best follow-up technique that you would, deploy yourself? And not, I don't know, like, is it just, it's not just the simple email stuff, is it? Like, how creative are you getting? What tips and tricks can you share with us?
Okay, good question, by the way. And yes, this comes straight from the pre-show. Our boy Rick, by the way, Rick, high five for good question. Okay, gone to a trade show, collected some business cards, got some contacts, had some conversations. Kind of now what, right? Like, how do I close? Not that he's asking how now what, but it's how do I close the loop? How do I maximize my time? How am I as efficient as possible? And how would you make sure that I get as many clients as possible from the roughly 50 people that I met, spoke to, and collected information from? So answer is this. Is it in a perfect world? We wouldn't be asking that question after the event, because this is what tends to happen. We got to ask this question when, and that's before the event. So with our training, and we got some lead generation training, what we train on is this. You got pre, at, post, right? So just picture a piece of paper with 2 lines on it, and you got 3 columns, right? And maybe you want to get like all new age and use an Excel spreadsheet. And then you're going to get super funky, and maybe you're going to use a Google Doc, and maybe like super, you're going to use Evernote, but joking. 3 columns, bingo, bango, bongo. Where do you want to do it? On a piece of paper? You want to do it on your iPad, etc. But at the end of the day, I want you to frame that up. So what are the things? So before I go to the trade show, and ideally, a week before, 2 weeks before, and a month before is way better than a week before. I want to organize myself. So before the event, what do I got to think about? What am I going to do? Well, one of the things you could do is you could walk around with an iPad, which would be easy to do. And what would you do on that? You would have a plan, because you meet somebody and then you want to collect their information, take a photo of their business card, take notes of that conversation. Even while you're speaking to them, okay, hang on, I want to make sure that I follow up with you, and start plunking their email, their name, their email address, their company, what the conversation looked like. And one of the things that I would be doing is a problem. I'm always trying to remember, business is about solving problems. The bigger the problem and the more people that have the problem and the easier it is to get a hold of those problems and more painful that problem is, I can tell you how big your company's going to be. But scratch that. When I'm having a discussion with somebody at a trade show, I want to start the conversation, but one of the things that I want to glean is a challenge that they're facing, right? It's time off, it's staff, it's sales, it's marketing, it's systems, it's people, right? It's relationships. So I wanted to note that, and I want to put that in my notes. So before I go to the event, I want to have a game plan for, how I'm going to tackle it, how I'm going to show up. What's my elevator pitch going to be? Do I do that at the event and do it ad hoc and change it 6 times as I speak to 60 people? Answer is hard no. In a perfect world, you've already got your elevator pitch ready. Like with our coaches, it's, I can find you $100,000 in 45 minutes without you spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, right? Bingo, bango. But if you say that with some mojo, there's a pretty good chance that you're speaking, the person that you're speaking to, their eyes are going to light up and they're going to say, so how do you do that? That evoked curiosity, and you're going to be off to the races, right? So hopefully you could have a little bit of a game plan. We train folks on this, but prior to the meeting, you got to have everything ready. Like, are you going to have your business card? Are you going to have your brochure? You're going to have your pitch. You're going to have your script. You're going to have your way to capture information. And by the way, Road Dogg and I are at a trade show. He's the chiropractor, and I am the business coach. Do I want to give him my information, or do I want to get his? Which one's more powerful? Hopefully, you know the name of that, the answer to that. But by 100 miles, it's collecting of information, not giving out. Because the same way that you're meeting a lot of people, they're meeting a lot of people, and there's zero chance, well, very slim chance that the person's going to remember you after the event, right? And by the way, when I'm going to the events, you might want to wear a funny hat. You might want to wear all purple. You might want to wear all red. Those might be stupid ideas, but you know what I mean? Like, you want to do something that would allow you to stand out a little bit, right? So anyway, so you got to make that. You got to make a pre-plan of the event. Now you're at the event, okay? And again, you want to look. There's 100 stalls. Do you want to go to 100 stalls, or do you want to go to 3 and not maximize your time? Obviously, the answer is that you want to, make the rounds. Okay, well, what's the layout of the show? Well, actually, okay, so I would do this in pre-planning, but at the show, I want to have a little bit of a game plan as to how. And if like trade shows, they've got an outer layer, an inner. You know what I mean? Like you'll be able to see like an aerial view of the trade show, and then make a game plan to get around. By the way, I would also want to know which businesses are there, and I would like to do a little bit of homework beforehand. Because I'd like, maybe if there's 100, is it realistic for me? I've only got 1 day I could be there. I've only got 2 days that I could be there. Are you going to be able to speak to 100 people? Good chance the answer is no. So what do you want to do? Well, you got to identify. 80-20 would dictate if there's 100, there's 20 that are really going to matter at a significantly higher level, right? Well, identify who those 20 are, go to them. And by the way, would I go to them first? No, I'd actually go to some let's go A, B, C grade prospects. I would go to some C grade prospects and practice a little bit if I wasn't a refined pro. And then I would go to my B grade prospects, and I'm a little bit better. And by the time I get to the 20 that I really want to do business with, I've practiced my pitch, and I've experimented with the iPad, capturing his information to and fro, back and forth, my pitch a little bit. So bottom line is, at the event, I want to have a game plan. And really importantly, what I want to do is, if Road Dogg's there, I want to be getting his information. I'll give him mine as well. What's way more important is that I get mine, and then I, take some notes, and then I solve them. I send him a note. Look, is a personalized note going to be a good idea, or is something really generic? Obviously, something personalized, right? Like denoting, the conversation. Which, by the way, was something very important I didn't say in the pre. What you've got to do is your follow-up email, your follow-up script, and your follow-up plan needs to be decided before you go to the event. Because this happens all the time. People go to trade shows and then they leave. It's Monday, Tuesday, and they start, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to follow up with those people. Geez, it's already Wednesday. It's already Thursday. It's already Friday. Shoot. And so when you write your email, it is a template for yourself, and then you just need to fill in some personalized notes, like put their name and then the problem that they were identified, a little bit about your conversation, something you remembered about them, something they might remember about you. If you have that email ready before you go to the trade show, one thing I know, and if you're a coach, you understand psychology, you'll also know this, that your excitement, what you want to do is be excited about writing, you know what I mean, the follow-up emails because they're already written, not dreading it because, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? 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 And then you end up getting, writer's block, and then those darn emails and the darn letters and the follow-up text, the follow-up private messages, the friending on, Facebook, connecting on LinkedIn, etc. It doesn't happen. So anyway, so that's the at, and then post, right? Again, you've got the follow-up script, you follow-up text, the follow-up direct message, you're going to like them, you're going to go to their personal Facebook page, you're going to go to their LinkedIn page, you're going to go maybe their Instagram if that's your thing, or that's you're on that too. That would be a good idea. The more places you connect with them, the better. And then you're going to send this follow-up. And again, would I like a couple of their photos, or would I not like a couple of their photos on Facebook? The answer is obviously you would. So anyway, so that's my answer, Road Dog. I go a lot deeper on that, but you got to have a pre-plan, 3 columns. You got a pre-show plan, you got an at-show plan, and you got a post-event plan. And the more organized you are, you will find the more enthusiastic you will be about sending out all of those emails straight, straight afterwards. And, which one do you think is going to get the better results? And the answer is a painfully obvious one. And maybe just we should throw in a bit of an 80-20 type situation, right? Where again, it's like if I'm doing a speaking event, let's just call it 100 people in the audience. I just know that the 80-20 principle, remember 80-20 is an opinion and something that I've experienced and you've experienced and we've heard about. It's a universal principle that you're just not getting away from, right? Like again, like 80% of the watches on this planet are owned by 20% of the men, right? But the magic of 80-20 is the 150. 1% of the watches, 1% of the people on this planet own 50% of the watches. And yes, there are just, people with literally collections of a number of hundreds of them. So, and that, again, it's not my opinion. When you do the math, this is a universal principle you're just not getting away from. What did I just say? At the trade show, there's 100 businesses. 20 are going to be more important than the other 80 combined. And then 1 is going to be like lights out and be your client for X amount of time. The difficulty with that concept, 80-20 down to 150, is identifying that 150 moment, that 150 contact. And quite frankly, without a lot of seasoning and whatnot, it is going to be significantly harder to find. And even somebody who's super, seasoned can't necessarily identify that 1 to 50. But when you understand that that's the dynamic of it, you really want to be honing in on that one person that you're going to be the ideal coach for, the ideal consultant for. You're going to build they're going to be the ideal client for you. It's going to be a really good relationship. And maybe one more there, Road Dog. So define that? What does that mean? Remember, your best coaching client is you 5 years ago, right? The end. So when you see that is somebody, like you came out of, software sales, and you came, you used to work for Microsoft, you used to work for Porsche, you used to race cars, and now you've got into XYZ business, et cetera. And they're got the same path. That you 5 years ago is your ideal client. So if I'm looking 80-20 and then moving towards 150, I'm really looking for that one person that we just get I get them, they get me. And if I do coach them, it's going to be a walk in the park. Because again, this guy was me 5 years ago. And then of course you got to become the person that they want to be in 5 years. That's a whole nother topic, but that just comes back to, who you are, what you are, etc. So anyways, that's my answer, Shoots. What do you think? You agree? Any comments?
I'm actually wanting to ask you a very different question right now. And you opened the door, Shoots, so I gotta walk through it. I at least gotta bang on a little bit.
Where are you gonna go?
So you talk about the 5-year thing.
Yep.
So over the past 5 years, what would you say is the biggest mindset shift and change that you've had that's affected maybe not just even your business, but your entire life and the way that you do things?
Buddy, great question, and I can easily answer that. People, how do I word this? I did a YouTube video on this, but it's like You want to demonstrate. When I go to Facebook, I don't want people to be jealous of what I have and envious of what I have. I want them to be envious of who I am, what I am, right? Um, so the number one thing I feel like a lot, I'm sure, and again, as you know, I mean, and Road Dog, you're the same, but I'm a, personal development, personal growth junkie, possibly to a fault, but I love it. That's why I do what I do. Um, so I just, like understanding that, do you know what I mean? But understanding, like, you know what I mean? The people that I want working with me, that want to be working with me and want to be working with our company, I want to demonstrate that this is who I am, and what about, what is that, and picturing it up. Yeah, anyway, so that's my answer. And remember, the world is not driven by greed, it's driven by envy. Okay, very important. So I want them to be envious of who I am. And then the way you do that is you demonstrate that this is who I am, and I try to be, unapologetically myself. Like, as an example, I've had this conversation 100 times at least, where, look, I'm riding my bike on the beach. Waves crash. It literally got knocked off my bike. I've dropped my phone, and it's like, oh my god, it's just a disaster, right? But like, like that's, nobody, you know what I mean? Like, me real well, Road Dog, right? And that is who I am. That is what I am, and I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? By just demonstrating, the mean streets of the canal. You know what I mean? Like my buddy, I got a good buddy of mine, 6'5" Steve, but he's always like, what's going on in the mean streets of the canal? So anyway, um, you know what I mean? Like, just, and by the way, okay, I want to finish this. So the Harvard guy with the Harvard law degree guy will look at me riding my bike on the beach, waffling on, staring at my phone, dropping it, getting knocked over by the waves accidentally. Like, somehow I didn't see this wave coming, and I literally get knocked off my bike, right? Um, he either jives with me or he doesn't, and that's cool. So it just, yeah, that's my answer, man. I hope that and yeah, trying to become the best version of myself, which I am so much a work in progress, and I have a dynamic going on right now that just makes my eyes water. Where I could have, you know what I mean? I'm a work in progress, man. I'm so far from perfect. It's scary. No doubt, that's obvious, and you know what I mean. Everybody knows that, right? But you know what I mean. Like, I'm just unapologetically myself, and I try to be that here. So I think, some people just gel with you, and some people don't. But I want to put out there just, what I am, who I am, and that.
That's a scary proposition, though, dude. Right? It's easy enough to say, just be unapologetically you, and that's because that's truly the, like, you talk about at the trade show. Like, what's the, maybe not wear a funny hat, maybe not wear an all red suit.
So yeah,
But if
you pull it
you're
off.
just you with your, if you're just you with your personality, like, that'll be memorable. But it's easier said than done. It's sort of like in the pre-show, we had somebody mention that they had, like, call reluctance. They had this fear of making cold calls. So it's all about getting out of your own way, right? So how do you get out of your own way and just be able to just be you on calls? In like, is it? Have you found anything that's just like,
No, no.
maybe like a hack or
By the
a
way,
mental
shout out.
model on that?
Yeah, I totally do. And by the way, shout out to Yvette, right? So we go, Yvette, the Corvette, which she made out. I don't know if she liked that, but we're like, hey, Yvette. She what? Anyways, and her last name, which you might not say here, right? But is a color. So we're like, hey, that's a Corvette, that name. Anyway, shout out to her. Answer is that, would it be fair to say, Road Dog, that most people just don't know who they are? And that's,
Yeah, maybe.
you know what I mean? So yeah, like, that's my answer, man. So you got to go. And by the way, and I've been there. I'd like to think that I've come into my own a little bit here. To do. Again, work in progress on steroids. But you know what I mean? Like that. That's, again, who are you? Do you know what I mean? And I think that, I live on an island and I just freaking love it, man. And it's, it's small and it's incestuous and it's this, but like, I grew up in a small town of 5,000 people. So some people, everybody knows your business. Um, you know what I mean? Like that bothers them, but I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I have zero, you know what I mean? Like, this is who I am. This is what I am. You like me, you don't like me, but this is just how I'm rolling. You know what I mean? I wear my stupid hat, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm doing. So that's my answer, man. Who are you? Unapologetically you, I think, is intimidating to the person who's not totally dialed in on what and who they are, and how to project. You know what I mean? How they're projecting themselves out there. I don't know if that's the best answer, but.
And by the way, it's not a stupid. Are you still wearing that same hat from the L? Are you still wearing that one?
Yes.
That's a beauty. That's a beauty hat. That is a beauty. That is a beautician's hat right there. Is what that one is. So don't kid yourself. The hat is probably, when you stand it on side, is probably about half as tall as you. Like, that's the only issue with it. Anyway.
You're a nerd.
It's listen, but it's a huge hat. Hey, different question. And this is somebody that's, I'm guessing, a little bit further down the road. They wrote in and they said, look, I've got 15 clients, which, bravo, 15, you must be smoking busy, right? But they're like, hey man, I'm not getting any referrals. I'm struggling getting referrals from my clients. Do you have any advice or anything that, tactics that I can use to start getting referrals? Because they're just not referring. So what do you say to that?
Yeah. Love it. By the way, if you this is again, straight out of the textbook and platitudinal, but I will tell you that this actually, okay, when I did a live event back in the day, and this is something that I've mentioned in the past, right? But this is very important. When I would do a local live event, right? Well, Road Dog, what's the hardest part of doing a weekly local live event?
Filling the room.
The end, drop the mic, walk away, right? Okay, so when I did a presentation, my goal wasn't money, it wasn't conversions, it wasn't, number of laughs, etc., although all those things were important. But my intention when I walked on stage was that I wanted to get 2 referrals per person. So think about it. If I had 10 people in the room, how many referrals do I have? If I fulfill my goal, how many people do I have? And the answer would be 20. So when I do my next event next Tuesday, guess what? I've got 20 people to follow up and invite. And are 20 people going to come? The answer is probably hard no, right? But 3 or 4 will, right? Or you'd like to think so, and assuming that your process is good. And of course, if you do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. But that was my intention, was always to get 2 referrals per person, because the hardest thing was to fill the events, like you said, and I know, and everybody knows, right? So when I did that, I found that, because you're not going to give the guy 2 referrals if I didn't do what? Do a bang up job. If I didn't entertain you and I didn't answer your problems and I didn't solve some problems that were kind of thrown out there, then again, you wouldn't have, referred the people. So anyway, so that's what I did. So I love the idea of, if every client sends you 2 referrals, you triple the size of your company. Right. And most people like the idea of triple the size of their company. So the question is, before you go and, maybe think Facebook ads and a joint venture program and going to the trade show and attending the trade show, et cetera, maybe what you need to be doing is just speaking to people and going, look, can I get referrals? And by the way, do you know what the most successful sales program of all time is? Xerox, or at least I believe, maybe somebody's trumped them now, like Salesforce or whatever, but Xerox, very famous, very successful sales program. And what they would do is, Road Dog, I would approach you, and I'm trying to, Xerox, they're selling photocopiers, right? So I go to Road Dog and I don't ask him if he wants to buy. I say, Road Dog, do you know anybody who would be interested in buying a copier? And of course, it would have a tighter and more impressive script than that. But that's I never ask Road Dog, right? But then really, what happens much of the time is Road Dog goes, I do know somebody, but you know what? I would like to hear more, because I've got a company and I am successful and I spend a lot of money on X, Y, and Z. And gee, I never realized the benefits of a copier the way that you just defined them. I'd like to hear more. But anyway, so that was the approach. So it's a little bit different, but something to think about as you're trying to get a coaching client. Instead of going to the chiropractor and say, hey, do you know anybody? You go to the chiropractor and say, I know that, you work with a lot of businesses, and a lot of the people that come in to the chiropractor, to you, are also business owners. Do you know anybody who's looking to double the size of their business without spending an extra dollar on, marketing or advertising, or somebody who I can find through proprietary software, 100 grand in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. Do you know anybody that we're interested in? Or do you know of anybody who would be interested in getting interviewed on my podcast? Do you know anybody that would be interested in being interviewed in my magazine? Do you know anybody that we provide a magazine for each of our clients, right? But anyway, so shoots, I want to answer this. So somebody's got 15 clients. They're looking for referrals. How do we guide them? First of all, again, think maybe the frame pre, at, post, whereby I got to have a plan going in. So what we always taught, and what I would teach you, and definitely provide as a frame for our existing clients, is we want to sell through and not just to, right? So you're setting yourself up for referrals before you start. What do I mean? Back in the day, I built a $5.5 million coaching company. This is literally almost 20 years ago, right? We used to do $400,000 a month in new small business coaching clients. How do we do it? A large part, like the clients that we would go to, like my coaches, the company's coaches, would go. Most of the clients we attracted were accountants, business brokers, graphic designers, web designers, magazines, newspapers, promotional companies, etc. What are those? Those are all B2B plays, right? So rather than going to the chiropractor, we were going to the B2B like a B2B client who also had our targeted audience that they were working with, right? So what we would do is we would sell through those clients. So if you're an accountant, I'll coach you, but I'm really I got one eye, my 150 dictates of those 400 clients you got. I could charge you $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, and that's great. But if you have 400 clients and I got 40 of them, do that math, and it's a lot more exciting, right? So again, instead of the mortgage broker, the chiropractor, the dentist, the roofer, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, we are going B2B, right? So instead of going to clients that are going B2C, we're going to clients that are going B2B, right? I remember this one time we signed up a magazine, and within 90 days of meeting her, we had $100,000 hit the company's bank account within 90 days of, she came to a live event, and I literally remember, sitting in the front row, she actually got actively involved a little bit in the presentation, this, that, and the other. And that's not $100,000 in referral sales. That's $100,000 in the bank account. So I say that not to, ooh, look at us. I want to impress upon you there that, look, you get the right person in that room. If you've got 10 people in the room, 80-20 dictates that 2 are significantly more important than the 80. And let me tell you, there's a chance that you got a 150 moment in there, and it's going to probably look like a B2B play. The accountant, the promotional company, the advert, the magazine, the online directory, etc. So selling through, and then what do you got to do? Like, let's try frame this up. Like, one, you got to knock it out of the park, right? That's what we'd always like. Number one, you know what I mean? Like the deliverable, the product, the end. I don't want to sell through the accountant before I deliver for the accountant to being confident that we're going to knock it out of the park with them. So you got to make sure that you knock it out of the park with your client, and the way you do that is by going above and beyond, right? So we're not looking for the referral first. We're looking to deliver insane value, right? One of the other things that we do is like, this might have been more impressive back then, but we would send the coaches with think CRM, but we would send the email out at midnight, at 1 o'clock in the morning, at 4:30, at 5. Very seldom sent an email at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at noon, right? And then why? Or this was because we wanted they wanted it to look like they were burning the midnight oil for their client, right? Do you think that's, you ever spoken to somebody and said, gee, do you ever sleep? Is that like a good thing from your client? Is that a good thing from a prospect? And I would dare say yes. So these were, again, we were thinking strategically, right? So the bottom line is we're going to knock it out of the park. We're going to over deliver. That's not a surprise to anybody, right? Maybe we'll call this number 2. Let's go. So knock it out of the park. Number 2, we, instead of saying on the second call, on the fourth call, and 1 month on the fourth session, I'm looking for a quote unquote a moment, right, where they were blown away, singing our praises, and really like a result. They got the client, they got the joint venture, they got the product built, they had the $100,000 day, they had the $10,000 hour, they had the the XYZ. I'm looking for a moment, right? So then let's go one below that. So let's call this number 3. At this quote unquote moment, okay, or that stage of the relationship, um, I'm asking for the referral in that moment instead of the fourth call, right? Um, like the ideal situation, which wasn't always possible, right, was to go to their clients 10 at a time, right, and do live workshops in partnership with us. Okay, so I'm working with an accountant. We knock it out of the park for one. Number two, there's a specific, like, oh my gosh, like what you just did and what we just accomplished and the advice that you gave me just resulted in X, right? Which is like she's really singing your praises. Well, at that moment, I go, we should really look at doing something like you've got 400 clients. Wouldn't it make sense that all of them understand what you just said? Why we guided you in that way? Why that it works so well? Because we did it for you as the accountant, but we can do it with all of your clients as well. And maybe some of them are going to want our coaching, want our direction. But at the end of the day, we want all of them to be educated, right? And the accountant's like, you know what? That would be good. So what we want to do is we want to frame it up so that we get, we go into their boardroom, or again, you can do it at the chamber. But we want the accountant with 400 clients. Like you can't service 400 people. So if they send the email out or they send the message out to their entire database, that's going to be a challenge. You know what I mean? Um, so at that moment, oh, sorry. So 400, you're not going to be able to, again, you have to think strategically. If they send you 400 people, that's not going to go so well. So you want to do it. Look, don't send everybody you ever met. Take me for a test drive. Look, let's put 10 of your clients into the office, into the boardroom, into the chamber boardroom, 10 at a time. We'll do it exact same way as you came to my workshop on Tuesday. I'll do it exactly like that with the clients. And some of them are going to want to work with me, by the way, right? But some of them are also going to want to work with you at a higher level because remember, really important, like an accountant's challenge is that people see him once a year. He charges $2,500 or she charges $2,500. But the accountant really wants $25,000 client, $50,000 client, $100,000 clients. So I keep my money when the client pays me $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, let's say to support them. But the accountant keeps their money when that client goes to new heights and ends up coming in, you know what I mean? Like becoming a $50,000 client instead of a really small one. Because remember, your client needs financial statements and they're probably not getting them from their accountant. So now, and then there's a joint venture play for you there. When you meet a business owner, a chiropractor, and say, let's go to your accountant, get some financial statements. The accountant's going to say, great, and just wondering why you ask. And they say, oh, my business coach told me I needed them. And they go, oh, wow, cool. And then in some stages, in some ways, you can strategically get on the phone with that accountant. Okay. So anyway, so I think one, you're going to knock it out of the park strategically. For two, you're looking for a moment when you ask for the referral, not just, on call 2, on call 4 in the first meeting, right? Like they're looking for a moment and when their eyebrows lift up. And then 3, understanding what it is that you want to do with them. But I can tell you in a perfect world, if you're doing local live events, and Road Dogg and I are always encouraging you to do that, that's where you take them. You say, look, take me for a test drive and let's put 10 people, in the boardroom and let's educate your clients. That's the play. So Road Dogg, how am I doing? So referrals right there. The biggest thing that I said is you're looking for a moment instead of trying to time it. And that will increase results big time.
With that said, Karl, can you talk about that moment a little bit more? Like just for a little bit more clarity, can you just kind of maybe define and go into what you mean by this moment?
Yeah, nice. Like think emotion versus logic, right? It's been a long time, so I went to a bar and tried to pick up a gal, but I got to tell you that I know this, that going to a bar and then trying to pick up a beautiful woman and using logic, you know what I mean, to get her to come home with me would not be the way that I'd be doing it. You're absolutely using emotion, right? So to get I'm sure that women, they try to pick up a guy. Like, I don't know if that ever happens. Never happened for me, quite frankly, right? With my big nose. But, like that, again, it would be similar, right? Maybe a little different for the guys. But anyway, so selling coaches is the same. Getting referrals is the same, right? Coaching clients make the decision to buy from you with emotions and then justify the already made decision with logic, right? That's the way sales works. So sending you a referral is the same. Staging a call 3, ask the referral will not work as well as waiting for the moment. And then, by the way, 7 emotions when selling coaching, or frankly, selling anything that really matter. But they're fear. You might want to write these down because powerful. But there is fear. There's curiosity, which is a superpower of a successful business coach. When you're selling, a lot of people buy because they're curious. So the more curiosity you could evoke, the better. So tell me, like, if you're not working with us, does this make you curious? I can find any business owner 100 grand in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. And by the way, I got proprietary software behind me with 497 million weighted algorithmic sequences that define and that populates a roadmap that you can then use to basically realize the $100,000 that we just found you. I don't know. It's kind of like I got to tell you, I could say that to Warren Buffett. I could say that to Tony Robbins. I could say that to Ray Dalio. I could say that to somebody with a lot of money and a very successful business. It was said properly with some mojo, I would lift their eyebrows. So anyway, so curiosity is something you're looking to evoke. Certainty, I want them to feel very, very certain that I'm going to be followed. Like ultimately, I want them curious. Curiosity gets me in their office or on the phone, and then certainty closes the deal. Right? Curiosity gets me the appointment. Certainty gets me the client. Think about that. But then there's also guilt, pride, greed, and love. So again, fear, curiosity, certainty, guilt, pride, greed, and love. And think of my frame earlier of, pre, at, and then post. Like before you go and speak to somebody, thinking, like if I'm going to a networking function with 1,000,000% certainty, I'm going to meet somebody new. My goal is to make them curious. And I am not going to fill in all of the blanks at the event. They are going to have to get on the phone, come to Starbucks, get, belly to belly, toes to toes, nose to nose with me in order to find, to fill it, to close. I open a loop and then they're going to have to close it in my environment and where I want them to be. Right. I got to finish what I just said there. If you go to a networking group and there's like 20 of you and you go to the same room every week and then I come in and speak, that's your environment. It's not mine, or certainly the person that runs the networking group, that's your environment. When I go to that event and I make you curious and I say the chamber at 7 a.m., I'm putting on breakfast and doing I'm doing a presentation for 2 hours on how to double your profits without spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, et cetera, et cetera. I put you in my environment, and that exact same person, that exact same business owner will convert at a significantly higher level in my environment, right? So again, even on the phone, it's my environment. If I get them into their boardroom, I don't know that I would call that my environment, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than the networking environment that they go to every single week. But if I get them into my boardroom, that's significantly better than their boardroom. Anyway, so just thinking about that important. Your prospective high-end coaching client, and notice I said high-end, like the one that you want and will spend a lot of money with you. They're looking for a transformation, right? So paint an emotional picture. I think, yeah, like paint an emotional picture, right? Like paint it, imagine Road Dog, the business owner, the chiropractor Road Dog. Look, you tell me the problem you've had is you haven't been on holiday in 12 months. Okay, well, I'm not just going to tell you that I'm going to send you on holidays. I'm going to start defining, the last time I went to Cancun, we took all of our kids. We stayed at the 5-star resort. It wasn't quite in Cancun. When we got off the plane, I got to tell you, the first thing we felt, Road Dog, was we got off the plane, and my kids said this as well, but they opened the door. And the first thing that I felt was just this waft of unbelievably hot, but quite frankly, beautiful air. And I personally, I don't know about you, but I just love the heat, right? So if I got the snow and then the sand, look, I'm going to the heat. I'm going to the sand and the ocean every day of the week. So anyway, first thing I remember we felt is this woof. And then we got off, and it was about 17 different people tried to sell us, the 4x4 tour. the yacht trip. Somebody else was selling us scuba diving, but you know what? We didn't take any of that. We got straight in the first year. We had a bus waiting for us. There was a guy standing there. He had our name. No doubt you get the idea. Like I'm like, okay, and then I finish the story. He's going to put himself, she's going to put herself in my story. That's the way it happens, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, my commitment to you, Road Dog, the chiropractor, is we're going to work together for the next 12 months, but I am going to refuse to work with you for a day longer than 365 days if you haven't taken not a holiday, because a week is just not a holiday when you haven't had a holiday in 1, 2, 3 years. You're going on a 2-week holiday with your kids, and you're not taking your bloody laptop. Allow you to take your phone, but you're not taking your laptop because you're not going to be working when you're going to be there. You're going to be hanging out with your kids. You know what I mean? Like, did I do a great job of that? You know, I'm painting the picture, or I'm talking about the freedom, right? So, like, where would you like to live? Okay, well, when I'm riding my bike down the beach, I got to tell you, really, there's a like, if you're watching that, there's a you know, there's I'd be amazed if there's not a little bit of freedom there. Like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, that's where the guy lives. You know what I mean? I don't know, but that's freedom. Like, paint a picture of it, right? And sometimes it can be visual, like a YouTube video, or you walking down the beach, or in some cases, it's you know, the freedom. Like, if pretty much anybody you ask, what do you want? If you go down 7 layers, you get to freedom. The problem, the difference, or the thing is that Road Dog's idea of freedom is different from my idea of freedom, which is different than your idea of freedom. Okay, well, get them to allow, you know what I mean? By go deep with them and understand what freedom is, and then paint a picture of that freedom in a story, right? So you're painting the pictures, you know what I mean? Like a new demand, do you know what I mean? Again, new respect that they're going to get from their wife, from their kids, from their peers, from their high school buddies, from their friends, from their beer drinking buddies, from you know, their clients, from their staff, from, you know what I mean? The people that they have a relationship with. You know, even like a new website, you know, like that. If I'm selling websites, I'm painting a picture of how awesome life is once they've got the new website, or the new bulletproof systems that allow them to step away from their business, or the new capable staff, the new capable sales team, the new capable operations, right? The new marketing, the, I don't know, the new cars, the new home, the new friends. By the way, believe me, you become more successful, you end up driving a different car, you end up living in a different neighborhood, and I assure you that that has, you know, that brings on new friends. You know, like was it you and I, Road Dog? I was talking to somebody. Yeah, I think it was you and I, Road Dog. But I was just talking about how, like, I sent this in an email recently, but when you sit at a table with warriors, the conversation is different, and like, that's absolutely true. Do you know what I mean? When you're sitting with successful people, you know, that this the conversation is different. Well, one of the ways you get there is by, you know, hey, the golf club, the yacht club, the car club, um, you know, driving, you know, people that drive BMWs and people that drive Mercedes. If you look around, you're going to see that they tend to have friends that drive, guess what? BMWs and Mercedes. People that drive beat up cars and the beat up pickup truck, generally speaking, you're going to see that a lot of their friends have beat up pickup trucks, which, by the way, now, you know, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's just a thing, right? I don't, you know what I mean? That's a thing. Um, anyway, so that's something, you know, but look, they're buying, where am I going here? They're buying transformation, or like reinforcing their identity. You know, they're buying a new identity and a new transformation towards one, or they're reinforcing their identity. Maybe topic for another day to go deep there, but identity. You know, if a man commits suicide, one word, and I know this very well because my brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old, it's identity. The end. So understanding identity, how to elevate, like one of the things that we do, we teach people to read financial statements. I can tell you, when a coach learns to read financial statements, a consultant learns to read financial statements, they just elevate themselves. They become a higher version of themselves, like immediately. That's why we've got the program, right? Anyway, so, you know, sell them that rather than sell them a referral, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because they're coming back to the moment. Remember, you got to sell the low score, not the golf club, right? Sell the longest drive, not the golf ball. So that, you know, and just primary emotions, you know, fear and shame. Lots of that. Remember in the COVID days? Gosh damn, that's you want to know how you locked you. If you're looking back and you're going, why did I get? If you're looking back and you're going, why did I get the backs? Which, by the way, you may or may not be in support, and I have zero opinion on it. I got backs, to be clear. Do I? You know what I mean? Am I happy about it? Am I unhappy about it? You know what? Is what it is. But I will tell you, if I were to ask myself the question, or you were to ask yourself the question, why did I get the backs? Two words would be, two emotions would rise very, very high. There might be one slightly different for you, but these would factor, and it's fear and shame. So, you know what I mean? Then they locked us in our houses, right? Like, can you remember how crazy that was? I remember it was going to be for, you know what I mean? It was going to be for, whatever number of weeks, right? Then it became months, and next thing you know, it was a couple of years, unless you lived in Florida or some of the other countries that and the other places. Anyways, let's not go there. You know what I mean? But fear and shame, sick of those two. But you know what, though? If I'm trying to influence you, but I would do this very ethically, with an integrity, but, helping you feel, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to help you feel shame, when I'm selling you business coaching, and I wouldn't necessarily do this, by the way, but if I really felt like I needed to drill down and I really wanted to convince you, and I knew that buying this coaching program and buying this consulting and following my direction was going to take you to the next level, I would talk to you about your kids and what they're missing out on by not taking up. And they're not going to be able to go to Disneyland, and they're not going to be able to go to Universal Studios, and you haven't taken them in 3 years, you haven't taken them in 5 years, you haven't taken them at all, right? So do you want them to turn 22? Do you want them to be 21 the first time you take them? Is Disneyland different at 10 than it is at 21? And of course, the answer to that, right? So that's me taking you to, frankly, a little bit of shame. So I'm like, you should buy my coaching program. But the good news is I'm going to save you all of that. And frankly, but use that in an ethical way, folks. Use that in a very ethical way. So Shoots, what do you think? A little bit long-winded, man, but I like the question, and I like drilling down on moment was, look, hopefully that was valuable, but that's how I do it, Shoots.
No, that was brilliant. Not, I'd say it's too long, but there's too much gold in there, so definitely not too long. But that said, we are running long on the pod here, so let's put a bow on this puppy right now. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be a challenge. But if you could pick only one thing to take from today's episode, for anybody to put, I guess, into practice this week, what would that one thing be for you?
You know what? Yesterday I had a couple beers with a buddy of mine, hanging out on the beach in the water, by the way, which is very cool. One of my favorite things to do on a Sunday. But what we talked about is, we were talking about politics, and I call him American Andrew, big 6'4" guy. Love him. Love him. And he's a very smart guy. By the way, like, my dad's got a very, very high IQ. Like, right, my dad's like, very superior, right, with his IQ. I don't share that IQ, to be clear. Disappointing, but is what it is. But anyway, so he's got a higher IQ than my father, which kind of blew me away. And not that he's not a super smart guy, but anyway, so we were having you could imagine, American Andrew, we're in the water, a couple beers, and politics come in, and there's, there's 20 of us to do, and he's allowed, he's a strong personality, man, and I love him for it, and he just is. What we talk, so you know what I mean. Conversation goes into the weeds a little bit. He's very proud American, which God bless him, and high five him. But one of the things we talked about is, the ultimate competitive advantage. You line up 100 people, right? I will ask, what's the ultimate competitive advantage in business? We get all kinds of answers: the ability to communicate, the ability to influence, assist. I don't know. A bunch of different answers would come out, and a lot of them would be in and around resources to do. But let me tell you, my opinion, and he shared this with me when I took what he said, and I said, let me tell you what you just said. And I said this. I said, the ultimate competitive advantage is the ability to see the entire playing field, right? So I'm playing hockey, I'm entering politics, I'm entering business, I've got an XYZ. The ability to see the entire playing field is the home run, is the thing. So my answer is to think more strategically. So I'm going to a trade show, 3 columns. What are you going to set up everything before? when you get there, be ready to go and practice and do your elevator pitch in the mirror. And then post, be really ready to make sure that those emails, those private messages, the friending people and linking and whatnot or whatever, connecting on LinkedIn, etc., like doing all of that. You know what I mean? Like having that strategic approach. And a little bit being strategic and having, pre, at, post model is a little bit different than what I would classify as seeing the entire playing field, but they're definitely rhyme with one another and of the same family. So I'm going to say, and ironically, again, I was just chatting to American Andrew yesterday. We were talking about that, so it's been on my mind. But the ability to see the entire playing field is your ultimate competitive advantage. And an example of that would be that, again, when you're going to go to the networking, like I would never go to BNI, no matter, not that, and God bless BNI, and it's great and everything, but I'm just not going, right? That's just not where I'm going to go. If I did, and I have been, very long time ago, I hope that doesn't sound in any way I'm just not going, right? That's okay. I don't have to go. But if I did, and I'm not, but what I would do is I would not go without a gift. I'm showing up. I'm Santa Claus all day long and twice on Sunday. And an example of that is that I'm going to go to the networking function. I wouldn't go unless I had a book to give, a report to give. If I was a realtor, I would come with a list of the top 25 foreclosed property over the last 30 days, maybe, right? And I would say, look, by the way, shoot, I spilled coffee on all of these. I had to print it out. Look, what's your email address? I'll email it over to you. And now I just got your email, and that was a funky way of getting it. May or may not have loved it, but no doubt you get the idea. I want your information. I want your email address, and I want to be able to keep in touch with permission. But you know what I mean? So I would have a local live event on Tuesday at the chamber, and I would go, and then I'd be like, look, blah, blah, blah. This is, I'd stand up, I'd give my elevator pitch. And part of that would be like, I would help the people, whether they paid me or not. I sat down and never spoke again. They were like, oh, wow, that was a pretty smart thing for the guy to say. And I never thought of it that way. And that just helped me. But then I would say, and by the way, anybody here, I will buy you breakfast. And I have a local live event at the chamber on Tuesday at 7 a.m. So if you'd like to come, and all of you will be my guests. So just let me know if you want to come, and I'll organize for you a ticket. I only take 10 people. I only accept 10 people, and I've only got room for 10 people. So you want to come. I may or may not be able to get you this Tuesday, but send me an email. Give me your more to the point, give me your information. I'll keep in touch with you, and I'll get you booked. So I would show up as Santa. That's a way that I would be strategic in my approach if I was going to go to a networking function. What do you think? That's my answer.
There you go. That's it, folks. Take that and do that this week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with none other than the King of the Caribbean, the man on top of the hill, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside, and I keep alluding to this, but if you're not on the inside getting access to the pre-show, or you're getting Karl's daily emails, just want to learn more information about profit acceleration software, flash coaching, all the things, visit focused.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, share, and do all the things there as well to help us get up in the rankings. And that is it for another week, folks. We will see you on the next episode. And as I always say, remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.